Canto 1, Chapter 2, text number 8. Dharma swanustitak pungsam vishvaksena katasuyat notpadayad yadi ratim shrama eva hi kevalam. Dharma swanustitak pungsam vishvaksena katasuyat notpadayad yadi ratim shrama eva hi kevalam. Dharma swanustitak pungsam vishvaksena katasuyah notpadayad yadi ratim shrama eva hi kevalam. Premananda. Dharma swanustitak pungsam vishvaksena katasuyah padayad yadi ratim shrama eva hi kevalam. Swanustitak pungsam vishvaksena katasuyah notpadayad yadi ratim shrama eva hi kevalam. Dharmaha. Occupation. Svanustitaha. Executed in terms of one's own position. Pumsam. Of humankind. Vishvaksena. The personality of Godhead. Plenary portion. Kataso. In the message. In the message of. Yaha. What is. Na. Not. Utpadayat. Does produce. Yahdi. If. Ratim. Attraction. Brahmaha. Useless labor. Eva. Only. He. Certainly. Kevalam. Entirely. The occupational activities of a man The occupational activities a man performs according to his own position are only so much useless labor if they do not provoke attraction for the message of the personality of Godhead. Purport. There are different occupational activities in terms of man's different conceptions of life. To the gross materialist, who cannot see anything beyond the gross material body, there is nothing beyond the senses. Therefore, his occupational activities are limited to the concentrated and extended selfishness. Concentrated selfishness centers around the personal body. This is generally seen among lower animals. Extended selfishness is manifested in human society and centers around the family, society, community, nation, and world with a view to gross bodily comfort. Above these gross materialists are the mental speculators who hover aloft in the mental spheres, and their occupational duties involve making poetry and philosophy or propagating some ism with the same aim of selfishness limited to the body and the mind. But above the body and mind is the dormant spirit soul, whose absence from the body makes the whole range of bodily and mental selfishness completely null and void. But less intelligent people have no information of the needs of the spirit soul. Paragraph. Because the foolish people have no information of the soul and how it is beyond the purview of the body and mind, they are not satisfied in the performance of their occupational duties. The question of the satisfaction of the self is raised herein. The self is beyond the gross body and subtle mind. He is the potent active principle of the body and mind. Without knowing the need of the dormant soul, one cannot be happy simply with emolument of the body and mind. Somebody that knows how to look up the meanings of words, find the meaning of emolument, dictionary meaning of emolument. The body and mind are but superfluous outer coverings of the spirit soul. The spirit soul's needs must be fulfilled simply by cleansing the cage of the bird. One does not satisfy the bird. One must actually know the needs of the bird himself. Paragraph. The need of the spirit soul is, there comes some nice poetry or poetic language. He wants to get out of his limited sphere of material bondage and fulfill his desire for complete freedom. He wants to get out of the covered walls of the greater universe. He wants to see the free light and spirit. That complete freedom is achieved when he meets the complete spirit, the personality of Godhead. There is a dormant affection for God within everyone, semicolon. The spiritual existence is manifested through the gross body and mind in the form of perverted affection for gross and subtle matter. Therefore, we have to engage ourselves in the occupational engagements that will evoke our divine consciousness. That is possible only by hearing and chanting the divine activities of the Supreme Lord, and any occupational activity which does not help one to achieve attachment for hearing and chanting the transcendental message of Godhead is said herein to be simply a waste of time. This is because other occupational duties, whatever ism they may belong to, cannot give liberation to the soul. Even the activities of the Salvationists are considered to be useless because of their failure to pick up the fountainhead of all liberties. The gross materialist can practically see that his material gain is limited only to time and space, either in this world or the other. If he goes up to the Swargaloka, he will find no permanent abode for his hankering soul. The hankering soul must be satisfied by the perfect scientific process of perfect devotional service. Like such a beautiful composition. Fantastic. He gets a special award for that purport. We'll just speak of the whole Bhagavatam. But the language is so nice. And note, several notes. One note is, while on the one hand he bashes consistently mundane scientists, he's using the same adjective, scientific process, to describe bhakti. There's a purpose. One of the purposes is people have faith. If the scientist says it must be true, right? Because the scientist said. So then, just to help release one from that blindness, bashing strongly, repeatedly, with sledgehammer, bashing and bashing and bashing, pulverizing. The scientist says, therefore, it must be true. And then, because there is merit or value or some sense of, it's an important word. It's what scientists say. So the real science is bhakti. The scientific process of perfect devotional service. I mean, his mastery of the English language. English isn't his first language, but the mastery of the English language is nice and readable, meaning Bhaktisiddhanta's language was so high that, certainly his language was precise, but what did he say? But Prabhupada's language is so simple, use of the words. Then another topic worthy of note is the word dharma that's in this verse that's the same as 2 verses ago. We didn't discuss the 2 verse ago verse, but that verse number 6, because this is verse number 8, also uses the word dharma. Savai Pungsang Paro Dharmo. And Prabhupada elaborately discusses that he's chosen to translate the word dharma in an unconventional way because it's an appropriate meaning. Dharma means that which sustains, or dharma is occupation because occupation sustains the person, the physicalness. But then there's the paradharma that's not aimed at the physicalness or the covering, the body or the mind. The aim of the paradharma is the supreme. Fortunately, when the supreme is the target or the object of dharma, then the body and the mind are more than sustained, more than maintained. The perfection of the body and mind is achieved. Paradharma. So dharma is there in verse number 6, and then there's an in-between verse, which yesterday's verse, but then again, here comes dharma. That very first word, dharma sudasatak pungsam. So it echoes the former verse. The former verse is paradharma. And now here, that dharma, which means paradharma is implied by using the word dharma. Following paradharma, it's just implication without explicitly stating it. So, dharma sudasatak pungsang vishvaksena katasuya. So Vishvaksena, Prabhupada has chosen in his word for word to say, parentheses, the plenary portion. Another one of Prabhupada's use of words, which he was very consistent with. Plenary portion, and then a portion of the plenary portion. So maybe there's some newer people that haven't heard that 1,600 times. The portion of the plenary portion means the 3 Vishnu forms. Mahavishnu, Garbhadakshay Vishnu, Kshirodakshay Vishnu. That's the portion of the plenary portion. The plenary portion is the direct first expansions of Krishna. The direct first expansions are, we can say, the Chaturvyuha. Or direct expansions. And then the expansion of the expansion. But the direct expansion is the plenary portion. So Vishvaksena, Vishva means the universe, the Lord of the universe. We had this discussion yesterday. The term Narayana can have different meanings. It can mean the Lord of Vaikuntha. The Lord of Vaikuntha, Narayana. Lord of each Vaikuntha planet is Narayana. And Narayana can also indicate the Purusha avatars, because the Purusha avatars are giving shelter to the Naras, to the living entities. And so it can also refer to the Purusha avatars. The portion of the plenary portion, the Purusha avatars. Here, this Vishvaksena, it's the portion of the plenary portion, Vishvaksena. So, and here Prabhupada is using the word plenary portion. And so there's a purpose. It's the same purpose as the discussion about Lord Brahma saying to Krishna, "Are you not Narayana?" Because he's the shelter of Narayana. He's the shelter of all Narayanas. He's the shelter of everything. He's the supreme shelter. So he's also Narayana. And Narayana was the father of Brahma. So that was yesterday's discussion, or use of the Lord Brahma in using this word Narayana. So similarly here, Vishvaksena, the Lord of the universe, is Lord Vishnu. He's the Lord of the universe. But there's the Lord of the spiritual and the material creation. And these Chaturvyuha features, the plenary expansions, they're very involved in some feature or another feature of the spiritual creation. And the spiritual creation doesn't mean comes into being and goes out of being kind of creation, but rather the manifestation of the spiritual realm, or creation of the spiritual realm, because it's eternal. That's Vishvaksena. So the indication, this is the choice of words is very important. Vyasa chooses his words carefully, and Prabhupada chooses his words carefully, and those that want to communicate with precision, they choose their words carefully. It can mean either, is the point. Vishvaksena Kata. It can mean either the Lord of the created universe, or the Lord of everything. The Lord of everything, meaning Krishna. Just like the use of the term Narayana can mean this, can mean that. It can mean the source of Narayana. Vishvaksena Kata. So verse number 6 is emphasizing the importance of Bhagavat Bhakti. And here the emphasis is Kata, because Bhagavat Bhakti has as its starting point or entry point in hearing. And so the Kata part is there, one is hearing the Kata. Vishvaksena Kata, Ruchi. And Ruchi has its different meanings. Here Prabhupada has taken the word attraction. It can mean different things. One of the nice things it can mean is bhava. Rati and bhava are commonly, in Rupa Goswami's writings at least, they're used interchangeably. They're identical, Rati and bhava, attaining the Rati stage, attaining the bhava stage. So attraction. This is a little softer, a little broader, a little milder, but attraction for Vishvaksena Kata leads to bhava and prema. It's the bhakti process that's where the train is going. And then go back to verse number 6. The composition is so nice. And the choice of words is so nice. And the explanation, Prabhupada's brilliant purports with his excellent use of language, it's just so pleasing to the heart. And that's this rati, the pleasing to the, when there's attraction for transcendence, the topics of transcendence, the kata of transcendence, it means the object. It's the kata leads to the object of the kata, leads to Krishna, Vishwaksena kata. And having become so attracted, one doesn't really find satisfaction in other things, and one doesn't really find satisfaction in those other things anyways, as is the point in the purport. That is, the emolument of, what's the translation? Say it slow. Say it. Compensation. Compensation? Gain. Emolument. I'll read this sentence again from Prabhupada's purport to number 8. Here it is. The soul is the potent active principle of the body and mind. Without knowing the need of the dormant soul, one cannot be happy simply with emolument. Of the body and mind. Without looking up the definition, my understanding has always been like mixing. Like kind of like emulsification. You mix something, and so it's indistinguishable between this something and that something and that the other something. Emolument. But here's compensation or gain. It's a nice word. So, supposing somebody has the body-mind affinity, and such a person does the conventional sense of dharma is their religious duty. They do their duty religiously. No, think of different orders of isms, because that's what the phrase that Prabhupada is using. And to some degree, there's consistency over even over generations. You know, the Amish people, they have a certain ism of the standard by which they want to live, and they don't want to compromise that standard. Even the world around them is changing like anything. Or Hasidics, or persons invested in some ism without listing. And there's something going on that keeps the tradition going on. Besides, there's some, the next generation that has some loyalty to their prior generation, their mother and father and the ancestors, and say this follow. But there's something that keeps that system going on. But it's not complete. So, in other words, how would such a person take it? Look at, if you're an Amish person, you're a Quaker, or you're a, et cetera, there's not satisfaction, not complete satisfaction. So what's the distinction? One might say the distinction is the distinction between mode of goodness, a affinity for godliness in the mode of goodness, And then, within the Vedic tradition, people that are Brahmanas, but not Vaishnava Brahmanas, it perpetuates itself. They can be, highly learned and refined, and, their character is remarkable. But just to be in the presence of such person, not just how they dress, but their whole demeanor, it's remarkable. It's distinct from the grosser forms of Raja and Tama. But it doesn't bring complete satisfaction. So what's the complete satisfaction distinction? It's having an experience. It's versus in this first canto, the experience of Bhakti Rasa. No, they're experiencing something. Then comes the whole topic of what is it that they're tasting. There's some taste, but it's not the fullness of the potential taste. The fullness of the potential taste is direct experience of their relationship with the personality of Godhead. No, it's not to say that the people from this tradition or that tradition or any tradition, they cannot have a sense of godliness in their life. They certainly have a sense of godliness, and it's exalted and to be honored and respected. At the same time, it's a little bit like, not the same, but it's a little bit like understanding Krishna's position in Dwarka, Mathura, and Vrindavan. So the residents of Dwarka, they have Krishna's association, but they know his mind is in Vrindavan because of that very, very special regard or love that the residents of Vrindavan have for him, and therefore they're exalted personalities for sure. Let's say pure devotees for sure, or the residents of Vaikuntha, pure devotees for sure. To enter and become residents of Vaikuntha, they're pure devotees. And at the same time, and they're feeling satisfaction. But any position in this realm that's not of that same caliber of pure devotion, it's not going to be as satisfying or so satisfying. So what's the full satisfaction? A symptom of the full satisfaction, right in this verse, is a rati, and a strong attraction for Vishvaksena Katha. And they can hear and hear and hear and hear and hear and never become fatigued with hearing. The body may have to sleep and those kinds of things, but the mental alertness and hearing can go on and on. When, of course, the qualified sound vibration, but when hearing that qualified sound vibration, it can go on and on and on. And that's the spiritual position. That's what's being encouraged. So this verse, we'll read the verse again, we'll end. Because the next verse follows this one. The occupational activities a man performs according to his own position, that's the usual sense of duty. According to your position, you do your duty. Are only so much useless labor if they do not provoke attraction for the message of the personality of Godhead. So, religious duty or moral duty or worldly duty to family or occupation or whatever. Nice. It's honorable. People are honored for that kind of dedication and loyalty and fidelity and exaltedness. From a transcendental perspective, the Bhagavatam is expressing minus attraction for the topics of Krishna. Where is it going to take you? Urdvam gachanti sattvasta, okay, but not to the spiritual realm, not to that sense of eternal contentment and eternal relationship with Krishna in his devotional service, which is verse number 6. Makes you want to read the next verse, right? What's next? Because Dharma is also the topic of the next verse. Let's see if there's some discussion. Yes.
Even Srila Prabhupada's prose is poetry.
Yes.
It's just so beautiful. This pulpit is. It's like a poem that's taking us, beyond the coverings. So, one of my favorite pulpits, Gurmaraj. The question that arises is, here the verses, the translation reads that those occupational duties, they're useless labor if they don't provoke attraction for Krishna. And in many of our cases, it's not that our occupational duties, I'm thinking specifically of work, provoke an attraction, but we use the facilities that come from that labor to create facilities for our family, so our preaching for others, for opportunities for hearing and chanting. So I'm thinking, what is it that distinguishes then what we're doing from karma yoga? Is it the pivot is the bhakti with which those resources are used to create those facilities?
It's a nice topic. The topic of what's the connection between karma yoga and bhakti yoga? Are they really the same, or is one simply a more mature stage of the less mature stage? Or what's the relationship between the two? There are different ways of perceiving or observing or evaluating that distinction. One of the ways is the intention behind karma yoga versus the intention behind bhakti yoga. Karma yoga can mature into bhakti yoga, but karma yoga per se, so that means there's gradations or a spectrum, or it can become, karma yoga can become more akin to bhakti yoga. So the purpose, the intention behind karma yoga, my understanding is simple. The intention is no entanglement. Work, but no entanglement. You want to feed from the karmic entanglement by offering the fruit. So it's a means to an end, as opposed to the purpose itself. The purpose itself is Krishna is to be pleased, and the subset of Krishna is to be pleased is liberation is there, but that's not the intention or the motivation or the carrot that one is pursuing. And again, there's gradations or shades of there's persons who are, let's say, in the bhakti realm, the karma mishra bhakti. And then there's Shuddha Bhakti. So, but and for karma yoga to qualify as karma yoga, there has to be a mix of bhakti. Otherwise, it's not karma yoga. So it's gradations. And the intention behind the activity makes a major part of the distinction. Thus, the major distinction for bhakti is anukulina Krishna anushilanam, by definition, for Goswami's definition. Without the karma or jnana intention. There's other things to say, but that's a good beginning. Anyone else want to discuss something?
Just one more sharing, Guru Maharaj. Because in the whole field of empathic communication, there's...
Because what?
Because in the field of empathic communication, there's such an emphasis on needs. And in this purport, Prabhupada uses the word needs a lot.
Yes, he does.
In terms of the soul's ultimate need.
Yes.
I rely on this purport heavily.
You probably really like this purport.
Yes, because sometimes people can get so stuck with the survival and thrival needs that are on this material level.
Body and mind.
Yes, but ultimately the whole point of all of this is the need of the soul. So this purport is very meaningful for me.
And then there's these 3 sentences in a row that what the need of the soul is. Beautiful. It's like a banner for your empathic communication seminar, this particular purport. Anyone else? Yes?
Towards the end of the class, you made a statement that a symptom of satisfaction is ruchi, attraction for Vishwaksena Katha.
Yeah.
Could you expand on that, Maharaj? How is symptom of satisfaction taste? In my mind, I was thinking having a taste would be having a taste for Vishwaksena Katha would be satisfaction.
Well, one way to look at this, the way I like to look at this, is it's the expression here is not yet at the prema stage, it's still at the sadhana stage. And the sadhana done properly, with proper guidance, etc., can lead to the prema stage. So it's not the full absorption in ecstasy of love of Godhead stage, but it's the sadhana stage. So an occupation that doesn't have the bhakti element that is awakened through hearing and chanting, Vishwaksena Katha, having an attraction, or a taste is a nice word, attraction, affinity, so like iron filings in a magnet, attraction to the magnet, the iron. So that kind of affinity or attraction over time, done properly or under proper guidance, matures. So it's my response to your question is this is describing it, at least the sadhana bhakti stage. Following from verse number 6 is a more mature stage of being fixed in the attraction for the using the same metaphor, the iron filings to the magnet, just being attracted to that which is going to carry me further and further and further to this place of freedom, the need of the soul. Is that responsive to your question, or no?
The trouble I'm having is the statement that the symptom of satisfaction is taste. For Vishwaksena Katha, I'm wondering if I heard you right, and
well, I don't understand what your question is. What's wrong with symptom? It's lakshana, a characteristic. Symptom. So if I want to evaluate myself, how am I doing? And the symptom of I'm headed in the right direction, or I'm becoming healthy from being sick. The symptom is this one. I'm headed towards, I'm emphasizing here the sadhana stage, but I'm heading towards wellness because I have some attraction. That's a symptom. A characteristic of, an identifier, a feature of well-being, heading to further well-being, It's the affinity for hearing and chanting the topics of Krishna is a symptom of wellness, spiritual wellness. So the needs of the soul are being attended to properly. So I may not be a mature devotee, but I have this attraction. That's a symptom. Okay. You have some.
I just want to thank you for this wonderful class. The appreciation is Bhagavatam is sweet and purports are so nice, and then your explanation was really so helpful. In empathic communication training, I learned that we hear that autonomy as one of the important need, and in this purport, when we are reading, the soul is hankering for the freedom out of this space. It was making it clear for me what was autonomy meant there. So like that, Bhagavatam was so helping. One thing I want to put is, in one of our Bhadra celebrations, we read all the translations, and you said, how about the purports? And we were thinking, how do we do that, to cover the purports as well. But by next year, by your mercy, the whole community was engaged in reading the purports, and now everybody is coming to finish 10th canto and 11th canto. So I want to thank you so much for creating this community of taking shelter in Bhagavatam, and especially you're coming and personally, when you come personally, you invigorate that spirit more. So just want to thanks a lot, and we pray for your blessings to keep that gift and keep growing. Thank you very much.
The message of the Bhagavatam is available in its written form. Compliments of BBT, which means Prabhupada and the followers of Srila Prabhupada who completed the Bhagavatam after his departure. And then to take that message and speak the message and live the message, etc., it's something similar to Krishna speaking Bhagavad Gita and then living and teaching Bhagavad Gita. It has special benefit besides the book. It helps people to enter into the message of Bhagavad Gita, to have someone who exemplifies and understands and vibrates the message, and some groups of devotees that do the same. So our life as devotees is according to our nature, and according to our ashram, according to our circumstances, doing the same. The principle is receive and give. We receive, we give, we hear, we chant. And different persons have different natures and different ashrams and different duties and different circumstances. But that the principle is according to our nature, which is what's the purpose. The point of this verse is also so many duties, occupational duties, so many circumstances of life's duties. And engage ourselves in taking, receiving, and giving. Anyone can do it. We're all meant to do it, and so according to our nature, we're encouraged to do exactly that, and that helps significantly extinguish the blazing fire of material existence for ourselves and those that are caught in material life. That's everybody. The thankfulness, and in response to what you just said, the thankfulness goes to those who give bhakti. The empowered persons like our founder Acharya, and keep going further up and further up. Lord Balaram and Srimati Radharani, and the givers of the gift of bhakti. Here we are, and we're encouraged to do the same to our capacity, and it's effective. The potency or the potential is there because the process is effective. Just like the medicine of a good physician, it's effective. Take according to prescription, and it's effective. Okay. And Srila Prabhupada ki